Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada, we love you. In Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 25th, 2019. Rondo Deportes. Big C will be calling in shortly. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. And I love this. This day is so gorgeous in Northern California. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. And some people say that we will sell no wine before it's time. I've heard many good people tell me that over the years. And that's what it feels like right now in California. So I'm just loving what's going on out here in the sports universe. A lot of good things happen in the World Cup. Obviously looking forward to that big matchup coming up on Friday with France and the United States of America. So we'll see how that happens in the world of sports. Also, a lot of things happening in baseball where people are setting records. And it seems like every other day there's a new record set. I don't know what it's all about, but somebody's happy swinging the bat. Are the bats juiced or not? I doubt that, but somebody is hitting home runs all over the place, it seems. I do want to say, with all the talk about how many players have declared for the draft, and they're declaring for the NBA draft, there is only one player of American-born that won an award last night, as we all talk about who the best players are in the NBA. So I'm really excited about things that are going on in sports. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a host of Cadillac cars. There's something else that's going on in sports. I know that we all have this mindset that if we just keep working hard enough, that something's going to lean in our favor. And we know that happens all the time. And what I'm going to do is let people know that it's all in our own control. It's all there for the taking. It's always there. No matter what you want, it's there for the taking. You got to go get it. I do want to just touch on some things that happened last night at the award show for the NBA, and it talked about so much, especially the Achievement Award for Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and how when you think about those two great players, those Hall of Fame players, they really are the reason that the NBA is what it is, just my opinion. They came on at a time where you would have to watch the NBA games at nighttime. You couldn't see them in the daytime, but it's because of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird that a lot of people, they brought the NBA back to what people call, primetime television. And because of those two guys, to have them come on and talk about why they helped each other in life. And Magic Johnson said that he would look at Larry Bird's stats, and he always wanted to outdo what Larry Bird was doing, stats-wise. And I think that's so important because everybody knows if you don't have something to aim to, then it's hard to reach that. You got to have a goal. In order to have a goal, you got to see that target. But so many people, as far as college players, they think they're going to go on and become a dominant player in the NBA, and they're going to leave early, hoping that they're going to be the reason that the league gets to the next level. And maybe they will, maybe they won't be. But last night, ironically, there was one American-born player that was part of the award ceremony. And you think about it, you would think it's more people. But only one American won an award yesterday. That was Lou Williams, the NBA Six-Man Award. And I remember Andre Iguodala won that award many years back too with Golden State Warriors. But that was Lou Williams that did that. And obviously a dominant player as Six-Man of the Year can start for most teams in the NBA, but did a great job for the Clippers under the great Doc Rivers in Southern California. So when I look at what happened with the NBA awards that were given out last night, just amazing. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Milwaukee Bucks, Rudy Gobert, the Utah Jazz Defensive Player of the Year, Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks Rookie of the Year, and we just mentioned Lou Williams, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Sixth Man of the Year. There's Pascal Siakam for the Toronto Raptors, Most Improved Player out of Mexico State. And at one time, at least in one game, he played like he would have been the MVP of the series. in their win over Golden State in 4-2, even though a depleted Golden State roster. We know we had players that were injured, from Kevin Durant. Also, Klay Thompson was injured. I mean, Looney got injured. Everybody had some type of injury. I'm sure Toronto had some guys banged up too, but not to the same extent. But of all of the award ceremonies that I saw last night, I think about Giannis, and as a young man, had a hard time getting into the United States. I think on the third time he got through. The first 2 times, he or his parents, visas were denied, and if they were not able to solve that problem, he was just going to stay. What I love about Giannis, he looks like my son, and I kid my son all the time. I said, "You look a lot like Giannis, just a little bit younger." He says, "Yeah, right, Dad," but he has the same kind of features. But what I really was touched by last night, the award ceremony, as tall as Giannis is, and as dominant as he can be on the court, he showed so much respect for his parents last night, and the tears that came down his face, they were real. And he kept saying, ironically, when he first gave his speech, he said he was shy, and it was hard for him to stand up in front of a lot of people and talk. Now, he may be a multimillionaire. He has all the money that he'll probably ever need if he lived 10 lifetimes. But the fact that he even had a hard time just expressing how grateful he was in front of people and in front of a world audience, but he never forgot where he came from, and he gave so much love and praise to his parents, saying how his parents were the reason that he's here. And I just thought that was amazing, because so many young men in our society, they get praised more for maybe trash talking, and of course an award show is not where you trash talk, but I do remember Michael Jordan was still mad when he got an award that he got accepted to the Hall of Fame. He was still mad at the high school coach that cut him, and he brought that up. Maybe that was a driving force. But for Giannis, just seeing what he means to Milwaukee as a franchise, and what he means, more important, to his family. He did say that he wants to bring an NBA championship to Milwaukee, and that may happen in the next few years. You never know. Things change and people get moved around, and you have these player contracts that determine where players want to spend their time, and maybe even Giannis may not finish his career in Milwaukee. That would be blasphemy for Milwaukee, but he reminds me of Lou Alcindor, the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I remember Kareem didn't finish up in Milwaukee either, and he was probably the best player ever to play for that great organization. So everybody has a choice to make in life, and if he has a choice down the road, I can see that maybe he would choose to go to a different market, not because he doesn't love Milwaukee, but just because there's so much money elsewhere. And if he makes that choice, I would not be surprised whatsoever, but that's down the road. But if anyone did not feel what Big C and I talk about all the time, when they say that players are freaks, or they call him the Greek freak, he's not a freak. And you notice last night, he never said, "I am Giannis the Greek freak." And I think that freak is like the N-word replaced by mainstream media. And people might think, "Oh, I'm being crazy for saying that." And you don't hear that called for other ethnic groups. They don't call them freaks. They only use that label for black men. But I think it's replaced the N-word in some respects, because no one can say, as they defend the word freak, no one can say that he called himself that last night. Also, if you call him the Greek freak, and you look at how much love he had for his mother last night, how could anyone honor her as a woman and then still call him that name? Zion Williamson, same thing. These young, beautiful African men, no matter where they're from on the planet, they still are called black according to the genes. And I just appreciate that he didn't at one time call himself that name that many people have given him. And I just hate that. So I'm proud of Giannis, the way he spoke, the way he showed poise, and the way he showed humility. He's just an amazing person. I also want to say something about one of the players I respect as much as anybody, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem, just a statuesque figure. I remember the way Magic Johnson talked about Kareem, and he said that Kareem taught him a lot. Now, for those of you who don't know, There was a time when Magic Johnson was a rookie, and they had won a game, and he went and jumped in Kareem's arms, and he was celebrating like they just won a playoff game. And Kareem, said something to the effect that, hey, it's just one game. Kareem wasn't excited about winning one game because his goal was always on winning a championship. Now, this is just my opinion. I know everybody has their own figures about Kareem, and maybe he was not always the friendliest guy as an athlete. I know guys put up a defense mechanism so they can go through life without being bothered, and maybe that hurt him some. But when I look at Kareem, when I remember that picture, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, there was Malcolm X, there was Muhammad Ali, there was also Jim Brown, and a couple other African-American athletes when they were fighting for civil rights in their lifetime. So they haven't always been men that would walk into a room and people would stand up and applaud. So I look at that, and something that shows me, I had a weekend getaway with some family members. A nephew had a birthday, celebrated that. It was wonderful to see it. It was wonderful to be there because so many of us were talking, my mother and I and many other people, brothers and sisters, were talking about some of the members in our family who passed away. And you can't get that back. You got to tell people that you love them. If you love them, you got to tell them now. You can't wait for some other day. And when I see Kareem and how he means so much to the world of the NBA, it's just amazing to me how we haven't put him up on a higher pedestal. He scored more points than anyone in the history of the NBA. In fact, more points than anyone in the history of the NBA universe. I know there's a kid, I believe out of, I want to say it's out of Brazil that has scored more, but different competition. But Kareem, to me, I know we have Jerry West on the uniform, and I know we have statues of people like Barry Bonds. You know, he hit the home run king. Will McCovey over in San Francisco. There are things we can do for people as they're able to enjoy it. And I love what, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is. There's something I want to just go off track and say. The battle, there's a lot of things that come to my mind. Battle of the Little Bighorn. Today, 144 years ago, June 25th, 1875. It was Custer's last stand. And all men were killed. Over about 3,000 Native Americans never rushed in for victory. Always have a clear mind, a clear heart and soul, so you can make sound decisions. And if you love somebody, tell them you love them. Now, what does this mean about my affinity for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? I don't know Kareem, but I know that he has scored more points than anyone else in the NBA. And I just appreciate how they honor him last night, because everybody, our older people, they're going on to, they're just getting older, or they're moving on to a different realm of life. And I like celebrating people while they're here. And I wish long life and longevity for everybody. And so when I see Giannis, he reminds me of a younger Kareem. Maybe not as politically savvy, but also because of what Kareem did with Malcolm X, with Jim Brown, with Muhammad Ali. Giannis and players like Giannis, they didn't have to grow up fighting for civil rights. Think about that. Everybody wants to just say how great somebody was when they dunked the basketball, or how the three-point basket was amazing. But there are men of stature that are getting recognized, and I appreciate that about Kareem. I want to go to Rudy Gobert for the Utah Jazz. I remember doing an NBA game, an NBA show that we did, and we had Rudy Gobert in the highlights. And this man has, I think if he could add another 10 to 15 pounds of muscle, and he would become even more dominant. He may be the more dominant Utah Jazz since the great Karl Malone that came out of Louisiana Tech. I remember the first time I saw Karl Malone play, it was a Louisiana Tech. They were playing Fresno State, the Bulldogs out of California, in a college game. And I thought, who in the world is this guy? Why is he not playing in the SEC? He dominated that game. Slam dunk after slam dunk. Well, he reminds me, or I'll say Gobert reminds me of the great Karl Malone, Hall of Famer. But Karl Malone was so muscular, he could have played defensive end in the NBA. And if Gobert can put on that type of size, maybe he can be more dominant for Utah. So congratulations to Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year. He has a lot of range, can get around and block shots, can get up and down the court, so he's amazing. Now, here's a kid that I want to praise my son over. My son's just finished his junior year in high school, and he's a dominant basketball player as well. Has a bright future. He's also very smart academics. And he was telling me, Dad, he thought that Luka Doncic was going to be the Rookie of the Year for the Dallas Mavericks. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. It's going to go to another player. But Luka, just watching him play, of course, he's been playing against grown men for a long time. He's shown that he's a valuable commodity. And I'm sure the Dallas Mavericks will benefit by having him. Imagine two great European players on the Dallas Mavericks team. Dirk Nowitzki, retiring Hall of Famer, arguably maybe the greatest Dallas Maverick ever, the great Dirk Nowitzki. And now you have Luka Doncic to hand that baton. Handing the baton is what we're seeing a lot of men do, and that's what I saw with the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then Giannis looking a lot like Kareem. I mean, it's just amazing how they look so much the same. And then when you look at Luka Doncic, what he does for the Dallas Mavericks, Nowitzki had a shot that nobody could touch. Amazing. European player, just an all-pro player, Hall of Famer. And maybe Doncic has that in his future. So we'll see. Lou Williams, LA Clippers, 6th Man of the Year. It'd be a shame if he never had a chance to celebrate a championship, because he has such skills on the floor. Hard to stop him. I remember watching some games when they played Golden State. Even the games that they played against the LA Lakers. And you would think that Lou Williams is a first ballot Hall of Famer just the way he dominated games at times. And he's coached by Doc Rivers, so you know he has all the fundamentals. But there's something about a player that can come off the bench, like Andre Iguodala for the Golden State Warriors. But Andre, when Steve Kerr asked him to be a 6th man to come off the bench, he had to do some convincing. But when he looked around and saw Curry, and you saw Thompson and Draymond, then it's a little bit easier to make that choice. Lou Williams didn't have that in LA. He didn't have a Steph Curry, didn't have a Klay Thompson, doesn't have now Kevin Durant. Maybe he played his last game for Golden State. Who knows? They'll probably sign him, and he'll probably opt out after his rehabilitation for whatever reason. But Lou Williams, loved the way he played. I think he's a star player. And for most teams, he wouldn't have to come off the bench. But you do what helps the team. I want to look at Pascal Siakam. I know he kind of disappeared in some games in the NBA Finals with the Golden State Warriors. But he's still a dominant player, and he's still a young man. When you think about how he improved from New Mexico State to now the Toronto Raptors, the world champions, and yes, they are world champions because there was no Durant to go up against, and at the end of the stretch, they were about to lose, Game 6 in Oakland, and then Klay Thompson got injured toward the ACL. But you can't take anything away from him. But I would like to say also, a lot like Karl Malone back in the day, when he came into the league, he put some muscle on him. I guess back then, players could play more physical. But Larry Bird said something last night, and I thought it was very poignant, especially coming from Larry Bird, who many people say is one of the best shooters ever. Maybe, according to Boston, the best Boston Celtic ever, as far as a guy who could drop 30 on you in a game. And he said that players today are better than players of his generation. And that might make people say, no, Larry Bird, you're just being kind. Athletically, Larry Bird was telling the truth. I was watching a program with Michael Jordan, considered the GOAT by many people. But when you watch Michael Jordan compared to LeBron James, they don't even compare. LeBron's a much more dominant athlete. Michael Jordan had a lot of skill, but he also benefited by the league not allowing you to touch Michael Jordan. I know Magic Johnson said that in a joke for the Olympics. He said, don't stand too close to Michael, they may call a foul, and he was right. Even though Michael was dominant. I remember watching him play. I believe they were playing the Chaminade over in Hawaii back in the 80s. In North Carolina Kingdom over there, and there some of my Hawaiian friends were saying how great Jordan was, and no one can knock Jordan. But Jordan doesn't have the physical body that you have of men today. They're just getting bigger, stronger, and faster. Football, basketball, and baseball. So when Larry Bird said, for people to say that the players of this generation couldn't play against the players of his generation, he and the great Magic Johnson, I think he set the record straight. A lot of those players from back in the day, they couldn't play in this day and era. So I really appreciate what Larry Bird said about that. Pascal Siakam, he has a lot of growth in him, and I think he's going to get that and become a fine player for the Toronto Raptors. I want to look at the coach. When you look at Budenholzer, Milwaukee Bucks, Coach of the Year, maybe some people might say it should have been Nick Nurse since Nick Nurse took him out. And there are even people that say Coach Kerr could have been Coach of the Year. When so many players banged up, how did he even get Golden State to the NBA Finals? I mean, seriously. When parts of the season, Curry had some aches and pains, dislocated finger at one time in a playoff game. Also, Thompson had been injured. DeMarcus Cousins was injured for most of the season. And then you had Durant, the king of all kings, go down in the playoff games against Houston. And against a Houston team that many people thought would knock out Golden State because they were healthy. And then when Durant goes down, we thought, it's a done deal. Houston's going to win. How did Coach Kerr coach that? And then to sweep Portland? I know some people are going to say Budenholzer, Coach of the Year. They had the most wins in the season with Milwaukee. But take away Giannis. Just take away Giannis and what they have had that season. Kerr did it with a lot of his players, all-star lineup, all banged up. But you got to give credit where credit's due. And for that NBA All-Star award last night, I really appreciated just seeing some of the guys that I've always thought were excellent players growing up over the years. And so that the All-Star game to me, it just embodies, what it is. And Larry Bird said it the best, and we have Big C calling in shortly, but Larry Bird said it the best. Players today are always told you couldn't have played back in our era, that we were too physical on you young guys, and you couldn't have done it. But I doubt that, and I agree with Larry Bird today. I would say more players from the old school couldn't play with today's players, simply because they're bigger, stronger, and faster. There's so much football players from 30 years ago, they couldn't play in this year's NFL, where you have linemen on the offensive line are 340 pounds and they can run a 4.8 40. Guys on the defensive line that are 6'5", 300 pounds that can run a 4.7 40. You didn't have 340-pound men 30 years ago that could line up and run a 4.7 40. So the same thing applies to the NBA. And I know as we get older, Big C, everybody gets better. But I want to get your thoughts. I was just talking about what happened with the NBA awards last night and how the great Larry Bird said that people who say the players today couldn't play with the players back in the day when he played, he said no. The players back in the day would have a hard time playing today. I want to get your thoughts, Big C. Your thoughts, Big C. We're having a little bit of microphone trouble. Go right ahead, Big C. Because the players, as Larry Bird said, players back in the day would have a hard time playing now, not the other way around, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, there's always players that transcend generations, Charlton. There's always exceptional athletes, regardless of the era that you play in. The ball is always going to be round, or the ball is going to be a sphere when you're looking at the sports. And so there's players, when you look at how their game matches up.
Yeah.
Every player cannot translate. You're not going to get some of the big, old, sluggish centers that can run up and down the floor with the modern players that you have today. But you also, with every era has shooters, Charlton, that can shoot a basketball, and that's what it's all about. Can you put it in the cup?
Yeah.
If I was to bring back a player from the past, Charlton, that I think would be one of the elitist players in the league today, that would be George Gervin, who played for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yep.
George Gervin could have played in any era. This was a guy who was leading the league in scoring with only a 2-point shot, scoring over 30 points a game.
Yeah.
But he had 3-point range in his game. He would average over 40 points a game now. Pistol Pete Maravich would average over 40 points a game now, Charlton, if they were allowed to play in today's era.
Yeah.
Because their games transcended. But you're going to get some of the big players, Charlton, that just cannot move up and down the court. That no, their games would not fix in today's world.
Yeah.
But you're also going to get the slight players from today that would go back. Yes, they can play that physical game. Basketball has always been contact. But that's the reason why you have officials on the court to call a foul.
To call a foul, yeah. And so I appreciate the words of Larry Bird, and love the fact that Sam Jackson, did the hosting of the introduction when he introduced, several players. But also Shaquille O'Neal did a great job last night, as the MC of the event. So just a great event out in Los Angeles. I do want to just say, as we get ready for more football coming up, give me your lasting impression last night of the award show for the NBA. They do it right, Big C, but sometimes it seems like it could be done earlier in the year or earlier, maybe before the playoff. I mean, everybody has their own opinion about it, but give me your lasting impressions of last night. And I really love Giannis, the way he broke down in tears of pride, and he never called himself a freak. If you notice that, I hope the regular media will understand how he paid homage to his mother. And whenever they call him the Greek freak, you're insulting that beautiful woman. And I hope they would stop that garbage for he and Zion. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the way the NBA puts on its award show, Charlton, so late after the season has concluded. I'm a reminiscer when it comes to where they used to pass out the MVP during the playoffs in front of a home crowd, Charlton. Yeah. Where it would just resonate, and the home crowd would get an opportunity to enjoy that experience. Yep. With that particular player. Yeah. If you think about the defensive player, the most improved player, Charlton, Rookie of the Year. These awards, when an opportunity was given, Charlton, were given in front of a home crowd that a player could get the exacerbation from his local media and fans. Yep. And I think by just putting it, and the NBA making a showcase that, they got to have the red carpet walk and all of that, the fans enjoyed these players when they were on the court. Yeah. It's not the same when you have to have some red carpet and bow tie event going on, Charlton. Yeah. I'm an old school guy. I want to see it given back in front of the fans in the hometown arena.
That makes a lot of sense. And so, just congratulations to all the players who were given an award and acknowledged by their brethren in the world of sports. I do want to just get on to, I want to congratulate the College World Series, because this event that happens in Omaha, Nebraska, I know it's spectacular TV, but to see how Michigan is just chugging along and get the 7-4 win last night over Vanderbilt. They're up against a different breed of pitcher tonight, Big C, but for them to take that 7-4 win, and Michigan, they're chasing their first World Series championship since 1952. You're going back many, many moons for the Wolverines. Vanderbilt has a chance tonight because they have the most dominant college pitcher in the universe on the mound tonight. Give me your thoughts on this College World Series, because if they can hit them, Big C, it'll be congratulations, Michigan. If they can't hit them like nobody's been able to all year, we'll have 3 games in this series. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're chasing their first championship since 1962. But the last time that Vanderbilt was in an elimination game, Charlton, where it was do or die, it was a couple of weeks ago. And Camille Rocker was put on the mound, Charlton. Ironically, he came out, he had 19 strikeouts in 9 innings, Charlton, to stave off that opponent and to advance Vanderbilt. So you have the right young man. And this guy is a freshman. Yeah. So he doesn't understand what pressure is, Charlton. He just goes out there, and he reminds me of a former Vanderbilt pitcher, David Price, who is now with the Boston Red Sox and won a World Series last year. This young man has ice water through his veins. Yeah. He's of a great pedigree. His dad was a former NFL player, Charlton. And so this young man understands what it's like to be on the grand stage in sports. Yeah. And so this is just great fanfare for college baseball. If Michigan wins, as you said, it's their first title since 1962. Yep. If Vanderbilt can pull it off tonight with Rucker on the mound, Charlton, and if he can duplicate that performance of a week ago where he had the 19 strikeouts and push it to a game 3, what a great series for college baseball.
What a great series for college baseball. We have a national hotline for anybody going through issues, whether it's military or not. I know there's POTUS is having so many conversations about going to war and not going to war. It's amazing. A guy that had 5 deferments is always talking about going to war with somebody else's kids. It's crazy, but if you're going through any type of issues, there's a national suicide hotline number, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or if you're a kid and you're facing a bully, if you're being bullied by anybody, sometimes you don't want to talk to your parents because sometimes, like Will Smith said, parents just don't understand. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255. and go out and get some help. What we're going to do is take what's called the Big C pause. And after the Big C pause, we'll come back and talk about a few more things in the sports universe, especially some Major League Baseball. There are a lot of balls going out of the ballpark, Big C. We'll take a break, and we hope that you'll come back in with us. Be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause on Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, worldwide on iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow us on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker. You can even find us on YouTube. If you have Xfinity Comcast television, you can follow Big C Sports Podcast there as well. If you have that app called Alexa, say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You hear from our sponsors, and then you're here. Welcome to the show. So we thank our sponsors for the support. But I want to get your thoughts on something. When you think about, with 2 home runs last night, the Bronx Bombers, they extended their Major League record, their home run record streak to 27 consecutive games. And they faced the Blue Jays tonight, trying to make it 28. Will they get 28, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about that murderer's row that they have there in the Bronx with the Yankees, Charlton, I think that's within reach. They hit the 2 home runs last night. Giancarlo Stanton got one of those. He's back in the lineup off the DL list, Charlton. You got Judge back in the lineup. You got Encarnacion that they made the trade for. So you have a plethora of big bats there in New York. And the Yankees right now are just dominating the AL East.
Yeah, they are. And so pitching on the mound tonight, Toronto's throwing Clayton Richard, and then Chad Green's going for the Yankees that game in New York. Would you believe tickets are as low as $6? That's about $11,000 shy of what the World Cup will have when France plays the United States of America, Big C. $11,000 shy. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, the ladies are must-see television and live soccer when you get over to France. So, I mean, you can see a baseball game at any time in New York. But the World Cup is a rarity.
It's a rarity. So tonight's Major League Baseball matchup is going to be amazing, just seeing what the Yankees are doing. But before we even get into the schedule, would you believe that some of the numbers in Major League Baseball, they're so ridiculous at the midway point of the season because players like Christian Yelich, Milwaukee Brewers, he's on pace to hit 60 home runs or more this season, Big C. Your thoughts?
And no one's crying steroids, Charlton. You know, he was last year's MVP. He had 47 home runs.
Yeah.
And he's going to up that tally this year, looking for his 2nd consecutive MVP in the National League.
He reminds me of Mark McGwire. He reminds me of Jose Canseco, and had a swing not like Barry Bonds, but at least when he comes to the plate, you want to say it's must-see TV. Why no talk of the ball being, well, let me just reiterate that. There's more talk of the ball being juiced than players. That's the antithesis when Bonds, McGwire, Canseco, and Socha, they were saying the players are juiced and the balls were not. Big C, why the difference?
Well, Charlton, it's a different era. I mean, it was a vaunted steroid era in baseball. Everybody was using it. Pitchers, hitters, everybody. And the media knew about it, but baseball needed to have an injection of fan interest. And the long ball is what brought it on. Now they're saying that the ball is juiced. When I look at Yelich, a slight frame hitter, Charlton, and he and Bellinger are built much alike. You know, he reminds me of a Carl Yastrzemski, a Darryl Strawberry from the left side of the plate, the way they swing the bat.
Yep, that's true, Big C. Minnesota Twins on pace to hit 309 home runs this season. The single season mark is 267 by the Yankees. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, maybe the Yankees are a little mad. You know, you talked about them hitting home runs in 27 consecutive games, trying to make it 28 tonight. Maybe they're in the hunt for the Minnesota Twins. But you think about the long ball up there in the northern part of the country, Charlton. I mean, they might knock out a few mosquitoes with the ball in the head.
And there's some, I think mosquitoes are so big it's considered the state bird in some counties up there, Big C. The Baltimore Orioles, they're on pace to give up 324 home runs. Camden Yards used to be a place like a baseball museum. Now it's more like a wasteland, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's a launching pad is what it's come out to be. Everybody going to Camden Yard is, licking the bat, to get one out of there.
Why you got to reference George Brett, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you think about this one proud franchise in Baltimore, Charlton. You go back to the days of Earl Weaver being the manager, Boog Powell, Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson on that team, Charlton. Some great ball players over the years, and now this team has fallen into almost ill repair in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And they have one of the most beautiful parks in all of baseball.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous place, but you got to pack the house. I know people want to build new stadiums, but it's about winning. They have a beautiful ballpark, but if you're not winning, people aren't going to come no matter where you are. The worst bullpens in baseball in the National League, you look at the Washington Nationals, they average a 6.29 ERA. And in the American League, the Baltimore Orioles, 6.34 ERA. No modern bullpen is ever to give it up more than a 6 ERA in a season. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I guess when you talk about Baltimore, that's a big reason why they've given up a major league lead leading in home runs, Charlton, and everybody's hitting it out of Camden Yard. But, I guess it's hard to say. Are pitchers getting worse or is hitters getting better?
Maybe they're using Bryce Harper's dad that helped him in the home run derby contest with Bryce Harper. Is he pitching for the Orioles now? Big C, your thoughts?
It's right down the road from D.C., where Bryce has played for him. I mean, it's in the middle between Washington and Philadelphia. He could have got off the train in Baltimore.
Well, my favorite team on the West Coast, you look at the L.A. Dodgers, and I know Bellinger, in the series note, Bellinger had a woman come out, and I guess she tried to give him a hug. But I know we've talked about that before there's a tennis player that got stabbed while she was playing. Monica Seles, while she was playing. And for people that think it's okay, and I was telling you, and I feel stupid for even bringing up the question, but I bring up stupid questions all the time. I was saying, don't you miss the days when a team won and they would allow the crowd to swarm the floor, like Boston Garden back in the day. When the Celtics would win a championship, they all flooded the floor, hugging players, kissing other, whatever they were doing it. Give me your thought. I think they should find that lady, number one, arrest the woman, but she should be banned from Dodger Stadium. I don't think that's too harsh. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, Charles, she'll be hit with trespassing, by the local magistrate there in that stadium. But, this is what players have to be leery of at all times. And people say, well, players are not as friendly as they used to be. Because players are vulnerable in every aspect. If you touch a fan, they're going to sue you. A fan can attack you, you retaliate, you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
So you have to, protect players at all costs when they're at work. I mean, nobody, when they're at work, want to be harassed by somebody who's just standing around.
Right.
No CEO in any corporate building in America is going to allow somebody to come in their office and jump on their desk and grab them, Charlton.
Yeah.
So why should athletes be forced to be under that a different code?
And just because it was a woman coming after a man, imagine if it was a man coming after a woman. We just can't let that happen. But I do want to look at the Dodgers. With the Dodgers, they're on pace to win 110 games. They remind me so much of Boston last year. I think they learned from being humiliated by the Boston Red Sox. What they learned, I don't know until the end of the season gets here. But they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you win all the games that you can, even during the regular season. You want to have a commanding lead, so maybe late in the year you can get some of your younger players in the lineup and potentially rest some of the starters. But once you have momentum, you want to carry that into the playoffs. And we saw how successful that was for Boston last year in winning the World Series title.
And when we think about National League and you think about the American League, people argue who has the better baseball, who has the better pitching, who swings the ball better, which ballparks are more favorable. Would you believe that National League, they lead the American League in interleague play? I believe it's 76 wins to 57 wins, Big C. So does that mean the National League will win the World Series this year? Because last year it was the Red Sox out of the AL. Your thoughts?
Well, when you think about interleague play, Charlton, I've never been a proponent of that. I've always just liked playing within your division.
Yeah.
But if you think about the last two World Series champions, when you think about Houston and you think about Boston, they had the best records in Major League Baseball, and it went on to win a World Series title.
Yeah.
Will that happen for the Dodgers this year?
Well, we will see. I'm sure they hope so. And Chavez Ravine. Speaking of the Dodgers, there was a girl hit by another line drive. And I know we talked about Manfred having to make it necessary where they can put up some fencing, some netting, whatever it is. Now, because of what happened at Dodger Stadium, again, there was a lady that lost her life last year because she was hit by a ball. I think they were doing their 50th anniversary or something of that nature. Kind of missed the media. You may have had a 5-second mention. But the Dodgers, along with the Nationals and the White Sox, they have agreed to extend netting foul pole to foul pole. I don't know if they're going to do it before or after the All-Star break, but they're talking about it, Big C. That's a start in the right direction. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, anything that you can do to increase fan safety at any sporting event is a needed thing to do. But also you have to understand that social media, Charlton, is as much to blame for fans being injured as it is the baseball.
Yeah.
Fans are distracted now when they're in arenas. Half the time, Charlton, they're on those things called a cellular device.
Yeah.
They're not paying attention to the game. They're texting with somebody. They're not keeping their eye on the prize, which is the baseball.
Yeah.
And you have to be alert, just like an infielder does in baseball, Charlton, because you don't know which direction that ball is going to go when it comes off the bat.
Yeah.
I know it's horrific when a fan gets hit, Charlton, and it's nothing new in the world of sports. But it's become more rampant lately, Charlton, because fans are not paying attention to the game. They're more interested in their social media also.
Yeah, that's true. I want to run down tonight's Major League Baseball schedule. We know everybody's focused on Toronto and New York Yankees. Will they hit that 28th home run? Texas is at Detroit. Toronto's at New York Yankees. The New York Mets at Philadelphia. And they were on a big losing streak. They had lost 8 in a row. They finally saw it come to an end. San Diego at Baltimore, Chicago at Boston, Kansas City Royals at Cleveland, Washington Nationals at Miami, Atlanta's at Chicago. I really love Chicago because of the big C on their uniform. Who would you say has the best design of a uniform in the majors, Big C? I would say it has to be the Cubs just because they have that big red C on their chest, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, the historical of the pinstripes that the Cubs have, Charlton, it takes you back to old days of baseball where teams wore the pinstripes. And so I've always loved what the Cubs have done and kept it traditional.
Yeah, they've done that. And then you have the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're at Houston. I think the Pirates may have, when they wear their black pants and their gold tops, I don't like that look. And those square hats, but everybody's different. So everybody's different, Big C. Seattle's at Milwaukee. Tampa Bay's at Minnesota. Oakland is at St. Louis. What a great baseball town, St. Louis. If everyone could turn out to see games the way they do in St. Louis, and I heard they turn out so much because the beetles are so big you can actually eat them and people get free shopping day. That makes sense, Big C?
Well, you know, if you can't swallow it, you can take it and go fishing with it, y'all.
Yeah, most people give out free tacos. St. Louis gives out the free beetles if you can catch them and if you dare to eat them. But just making a joke, St. Louis is a great sports town. Los Angeles Dodgers at Arizona. Colorado is at San Francisco. And Cincinnati at the Los Angeles Angels. There's some talk that Madison Bumgarner, the star future Hall of Fame pitcher, World Series champion for the San Francisco Giants, he may be shipped out of San Francisco before the end of the week. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this was a once proud franchise that won 3 World Series over a 10-year span, but, you know, they've run on hard times. I mean, Buster Posey is on the DL list, Charlton. They've had a makeshift lineup. Baumgartner needs to go in a salary dump scenario, so he'll go to a contender, Charlton, somebody he can help in a playoff run.
Yeah, it would be a shame to see. I mean, you see guys, people come and go. People talk about Durant. Will Durant go? A prodigal son in the Bay Area now, at least the last couple of years. Well, Big Daddy Baumgartner was the same. They never called him the freak, though. They just called him a dominant pitcher, but he was never insulted by calling him a freak, therefore meaning his parents were freaks. They never said that about Baumgartner, but they will let you go when you don't produce. I want to bring up something because I'm so excited about this. Opening night to the 2019 college football season is just now 60 days away. And all that means for me on the West Coast is the University of Oregon is going to put a spanking on Auburn to bring the prize of West Coast football back to the universe. And you think about University of Miami versus University of Florida in Orlando, and University of Arizona playing University of Hawaii at Aloha Stadium. Are the barbecue grill already ready for a kickoff in the South, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, we can go over to that game in Hawaii, you know, because they can put the pig down in the pit over there in Harlem, Put some coconuts and bananas in there with him. and it's going to be a great time. So when you talk about kicking off football on the West Coast,
Yep.
University of Arizona is going to be representing the Pac-12, in their inaugural kickoff of the season, Charles.
Yeah, and I also, for the high school kids, we don't forget about you either. Bishop Gorman out of Las Vegas. They're also playing St. Louis of Honolulu, Hawaii. And St. Louis has won, they're a 10-time Hawaii State Large School champion. And then Bishop Gorman, they've won Nevada, it seems like every year over the last 10 years, they're always winning the championship there. So great high school football to kick off. But since we're talking high school football, I want to get your thoughts because I have my own opinion. But the top 10 college quarterbacks of all time, if we go 1 through 10, Big C, I want to get your thoughts. And then why, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the top 10 quarterbacks of all time on the college football level, this is based on productivity, what they did while they were in college, Charlton. Everybody wants to say, well, you become a great pro ball player, Charlton,
right.
But it's about the college game. Number one on the list, I look at Tim Tebow. This kid won 2 national championships at the University of Florida.
Yeah.
Had all the records down there, Charlton. It was just a great individual. You never heard any scandal or any problems about Tim Tebow.
Wow. That, for college, I can understand. But I still say, when the NCAA, and they had the BCS era, they put Florida against Oklahoma for the college football national championship game, that was pretty much the same cast of Oklahoma that lost to USC 55-19. And they, instead of going with the USC Trojans who went to the Rose Bowl and beat Penn State 38-24, Pete Carroll was there, Mark Sanchez was quarterback. That was really what robbed college football of a marquee game to see USC and Florida. They were both riding high, but I'll take your thoughts. Who would be your number 2 guy, Big C, your thoughts?
A guy that I love, Charlton, he came from a historical black college, Steve McNair. When he left out of Alcorn State, Charlton, this young man had passed over 15,000 yards. He was ended up being a number 1 draft pick of the Houston Texans at the time, Charlton. Took the team to the Super Bowl when they became the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
But you think about coming from a small historical black college, being a number 1 pick in the NFL, and reaching the heights in the NFL that he did, as well as in college. Yeah,
and when you think about that, too, when you think of flag football and a lot of those football programs down south, they have sent as many, that conference, the SWAC and the MEAC, they've sent as many players to the NFL as any conference. And then you look at Eddie Robinson, there's no coach in the college football universe that sent more players from college to the NFL. That same type of level of football that Aaron McNair came out of Alcorn State. Big C, give me your number 3 guy as one of the top 10 college quarterbacks of all time.
Well, when I think about my number 3 guy, Charlton, I think of Case Keenum. He's had a journeyman career in the NFL, but when you go back and see what he did at the University of Houston, Charlton, over his 5 years, not 4 years, 5 years that he spent at the University of Houston, he left college football ranks, Charlton. He had thrown for 17,000 yards when he left college football. A record that will never be touched. But what you think about what he did on that level, Charlton, and he just dominated the landscape of college football while he was at Houston.
That's amazing. Give me a number 4 guy that you would say Big C's top 10 quarterbacks. Who would come in number 4 for you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, another kid, you talked about Hawaii. Colt Brennan, played over there under June Jones when he was at Hawaii. And he got, Hawaii, the University of Hawaii is high as number 4 ranked team in the country. But when he left Hawaii, Charlton, he had passed for over 15,000 yards. He had an undefeated senior season out there. They lost in the Sugar Bowl to Georgia. But what he did on the college level, Charlton, is unparalleled.
Yeah, and I heard he said them Bulldogs are a different breed of cat. So when they got up against the SEC, give me your number 5 guy. I know that you take a guy out of the West Coast, but you flew all over California and you chose a guy in Hawaii, but I'll think it's all fair, love, and war. Who's Big C's number 5 top 10 quarterbacks of all time, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'm going to go down to the south. I'm going to look at Deshaun Watson out of the University of Clemson. You think about all of what this young man did while he was in college, Charlton, to go to 3 national championship games, to win 2 of those against the mighty Alabama, and going on to having a stellar early NFL career. But Deshaun Watson was one of the more dominant all-around college quarterbacks that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I would say he's very dominant. Big C, I want to get Big C's number 6 top 10 college football quarterbacks of all time. Your thoughts?
Charlton, when I look at this guy comes out of the potato state, Boise State. Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore has more victories than any quarterback in college football history. He was a 4-year starter at Boise State, Charlton. He was a BCS buster when he was there, Charlton. He beat some of the big boys while he was there.
Yeah.
But to leave college football and be the winningest quarterback of all time on that level, Charlton, is astonishing.
That's amazing. Give me Big C's number 7 out of the top 10 of all time. Your thoughts?
Charlton, you know, I'm going to move up to the Rockies in that same area. I'm going to look at Ty Detmer at BYU. When you think about what Ty Detmer did against the big boys, I mean, he played one of the greatest college games of all time against SMU down in the Holiday Bowl. He also was a Heisman Trophy winner, Charlton. He helped keep BYU on the map. I mean, everybody will talk about Jim McMahon and Steve Young, but Ty Detmer was the record-setting quarterback at BYU.
That's very well said. Big C, give me number 8 for Big C's top 10 college football quarterbacks of all time. Your thoughts?
You know, Charlton, we talked about the kid Kellen Moore at Boise State being the winningest college quarterback of all time. The quarterback who started the most college games of all time, Phillip Rivers, who's gone on to have an outstanding career. But while he was at North Carolina State, Charlton, he was the most NFL-ready quarterback of all time being drafted.
Big C, give me your thoughts on number 9 of Big C's top 10 quarterbacks of all time.
Charlton, this quarterback was a quarterback before his own time, back in the early 80s. Reggie Collier out of Mississippi State. He was one of the first dual-threat quarterbacks to ever come out of college, Charlton. If he was in college today, he would probably be a top 5 pick in the NFL as far as a dual threat. He was Deshaun Watson before Deshaun Watson or any other quarterback came along. I know you love Vince Young. Vince Young was just a protege of what Reggie Collier was, Charlton. This guy knocked off top teams in the country and playing at Southern Mississippi, but he never got a good look in the NFL because racism was still about not playing black quarterbacks. That
was very well said. I want to get Big C's top 10 again, just your opinion. Big C's top 10 college quarterbacks of all time. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when I look at number 10 on the list, this is the only quarterback to have a stadium called after him. They call it the Warehouse down at the University of Houston.
Yes.
When they played inside at the Astrodome. Andre Ware, who was a Heisman Trophy winner at the University of Houston, Charlton, set all types of NCAA records while he was there. I believe it was 26 passing records while he set at the University of Houston. The most passing yards in a season, Charlton, the most touchdowns in a season, the most touchdowns in a single game. This man was just phenomenal as a quarterback at the University of Houston.
I want to say congratulations because those are all a lot of good players, and it doesn't mean that some other players were not deserving. I do want to just for the sake of the Pac-12 conference, Matt Leinart as a college kid, I remember seeing him play at Mater Dei of Santa Ana as a high school All-American, led USC to 34 straight in a row and 2 national championships. They were going for number 3, and they've been knocked out by the mighty Vince Young in Texas down in the Rose Bowl. Also a guy that's been much maligned. He played under Chris Ault at the University of Nevada, the Wolfpack. Colin Kaepernick, that good old boy, threw for 10,000 yards and worked for 4,000 yards. One of the rare guys to do that at D1 in college football. But I know everybody has their own opinion about who's number 1 and who's number 2. But it's all fair in love and war. Big C, I do want to, in the final 10 minutes of our program, when you think about great sports and athletes that come from different worlds, different spectrums, just thinking about seeing how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar last night at the award show, seeing Shaq talk, seeing Larry Bird and Magic Johnson doing their things, and one of the greatest actors in the history of the universe, the great Sam Jackson. I was telling my son he has to watch the movie Pulp Fiction because that's one of the better acting jobs, I think, by Sam Jackson. I know it was cruel in some of the way they treated people, but it was still a lot of satire there. What retired professional athlete would you like to see in today's era of basketball, football, let's say baseball, or even go say hockey, may as well throw in tennis, soccer, and even boxing? Give me your feeling and your thoughts on what retired professional athlete you'd like to see right now, Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, if we were talking about basketball, the player that I would like to see is George Gervin, the Iceman. I mean, he had one of the silkiest smooth shots that you would ever see, but he played in an era where the NBA was not on primetime television.
Yeah.
He was a former ABA player, Charlton, but he could score with anybody. He was lanky at 6'7", but he was smooth as silk on the basketball court. He could play in that physical era back in the 70s. He could play in this modern era of the 2000s.
Yeah. I want to get your feeling on who would you put in that must-see category for football, Big C. Your thoughts?
Charlton, if I could see any football player playing today, and if we all talk about the greats of every era and all of that, I would love to see Gale Sears playing football, Charlton, in today's wide-open NFL, with less contact, where you could not put hands on people. He would be a nightmare for any linebacker and half the defensive backs in the NFL, Charlton.
That makes a lot of sense. Give me your thoughts on baseball. A lot of people, it's wide open for baseball, but I want to get Big C's thoughts because you're usually very prescient. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, I mean, to bring a player into the modern era, I think somebody like a Mickey Mantle, Charlton. If you could bring a Mickey Mantle into today's era of playing baseball, people talk about the greatness of a Mike Trout. Mike Trout is a modern-day Mickey Mantle. I would love to see him versus the pitchers that we have today with his patience at the plate, Charlton. We talk about the Bronx Bombers. He's one of the great ones.
I would love to see Barry Bonds, because I grew up watching him hit the home run so often, and the home run king. But give me your thoughts for hockey. Who would be Big C's thoughts? Who would you want to see in today's era, Big C, your thoughts on hockey?
We can always talk about the greats of the hockey. I know everybody would say Gretzky, Bobby Orr, just great hockey players, Charlton. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
But, I would love to see Wayne Gretzky with the speed and grace that he had on the ice, Charlton, with the modern-day players, where they've taken a lot of the physicality out of the game, and see the great one scoring at the pace that he did back in the 80s.
Give me your thoughts on tennis. Tennis is a sport that you can feel it in your knees if you played a lot of tennis, Big C. What tennis player comes to your thoughts?
The woman that I always loved on the court, Charlton, Martina Navratilova.
Yeah.
Chrissy Evers, said one time, I'd like to see how she could fare against the rest of the men. Because she was such a dominant force on the women's circuit, Charlton. I would love to see Martina play in today's tennis world.
That would be something else to see, Big C. How about soccer? I know Pele is a guy I would love to see, but you may have Pele on your mind, you may not. Give me your thoughts, Big C.
Oh, yeah, Charlton, you would love to see Pele. Pele brought soccer to the Western world, Charlton. He integrated when they had the Pro Hockey League back in the 70s when he was playing with the New York Cosmos, Charlton.
Yep.
I think Pele is a transcending, soccer player, and he would be appreciated in any era.
Give me your thoughts on boxing. It must be the greatest. I must be the greatest. I hope I'm not wrong, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, Ali is that fighter that stands alone in everybody's mind because he brought boxing to the forefront, especially from an African-American perspective. But I would love to see Joe Louis fighting, Charlton. Joe Louis is a fighter that I'd love to see. But even beyond Joe Louis, I would love the opportunity to see Jack Johnson, who to me is still the greatest heavyweight fighter of all time, because this is a guy who had to fight for his life as well as fight against racism in a time where he was beating up white men when they were hanging black people for even just looking at white people.
Yeah.
Jack Johnson, to me, is still the greatest black athlete of all time because of what he had to endure, Charlton.
That's very true, Big C. And I would just add Jack for 18 majors for golf. I think he's something that I'd like to see again. But I don't respect a man that would play when black men couldn't. So that would be an asterisk for how great Jack was, because I believe in fairness and equality. And if those great golfers would have stood up before Ali showed up, maybe Ali wouldn't have had to stand up and Smith wouldn't have had to hold his hand up at the 69 Olympics. It's all fair back in the day of sports. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow us on Xfinity Comcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker. If you have that app in your house called Alexa, say, Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You hear our sponsors, and then the show will come up. Welcome to the show. Big C, I know there's so many things in sports that we love, and I just look forward to all the great things that are happening in sports, and maybe always enjoy them. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we're always talking about how sports is such a dominant thing in society. Today in California, legislators were talking about allowing college athletes to make money off of their likeness in the West Coast. And also, Mark Emmert of the NCAA said if athletes are allowed to make money off of their likeness, he is going to ban them from bowl participation. So that means he's going to omit the entire Big 12, the Pac-12 conference. if the California legislature passes that bill. I think we're setting, Pandora's box when it talks about the NCAA is going to have to be broken from what it is, Charlton, and allow athletes to make money off of their likeness.
Well, hopefully they'll get rid of him and have him work for volunteerism every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. Follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.